Want to let everybody know our presenters are joining now, and I see we have a few attendees. We will get started shortly here, and we want to thank you for attending the Wiesow Soil Balance Pro, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Let some more attendees get registered and in the room, and then our presenters will be here, and we'll start the webinar for you. Again, I want to welcome everyone, and we'll give it a minute or two here to let everyone that's registered get in the room, and then we will start the webinar. And we do have Peter here from Kind Roots, and he'll be presenting most of the presentation today. So I want to thank you for attending, and we'll get started here in just a minute. Okay, I just wanted to welcome everybody, and we're going to have Peter join us here in just a second and present Soil Balance Pro and discuss Plant Probiotics and definitely how this product can help you with your hemp. So whenever you are ready, Peter, we are ready for you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Beth. So let's see here. It's kind of a little bit of a new system for me, so thank you all for joining. How many, Beth, do you know how many people we have in the room here? Approximately? Are we still waiting on anybody?
Looks like we've got I'm showing 8 on the back end and 1 that is publicly showing and ready to chat when they want.
Okay, good. And then just so everybody knows, if you would like to go ahead and ask any questions as I ramble on here, please go ahead and post them in the chat, and I will make sure to have Beth stop me so that I can answer those questions, because some of the topics that we're going to be getting into on microbiology are going to be somewhat in depth. I'm definitely going to try and keep it in very easy terms. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So I guess I'll start just a little bit about myself. My name is Peter Saavedra. I've been a sustainable agriculture consultant for the last 20 years. I've been advising multiple organic and conventional growers on different regenerative and sustainable soil cultivation methodologies. So I'm essentially a soil specialist. What I have spent most of my life working on is soil physics, soil chemistry, soil microbiology, a lot of the real nerdy stuff, I guess you could say. So, but that's where I found my passion, was working to create nutrient-dense food. So when I was 19, when I realized what it was I wanted to do with my life, I decided that I wanted to not just grow food, but I wanted to make it very nutrient dense. My father was a produce broker, and so I didn't want to sell the commodity. I wanted to make it have more vitamins. so that's why I got into soil biology. So to kind of get to the presentation, what we're doing here is we have developed a very unique, very concentrated, very powerful probiotic for the soil. So there's a lot of liquid microbial products. The industry as a whole is fairly new, but what's coming out on the market are a lot of these different microbials, because what growers are now finding is that the hemp plant is a very unique plant. It's not like growing tomatoes or cucumbers or bell peppers. we're growing oil and we're growing biomass. And so one of the things that cannabis cultivators have found for years in growing high quality, high THC, very frosty cannabis is that if you're growing organically in a highly biologically active system, you're more than likely going to have more frost. And so more frost equals a more potent, that was the whole thing. But, historically, it's like more frost, the better the cannabis quality is. But now we're starting to quantify that frost. And we have something that's helping on all those dynamics. So before I get in to the science, and I'd like to explain just a high level overview for you gentlemen on exactly what the technology is, what it does. I'd really like to take just a moment to give our deepest gratitude as a company for your work by cultivating this important plant. We're extremely grateful for the medicine you're creating for mothers with tumors and children with seizures. So thank you, gentlemen, very much for that work. It's why we're here. It's why we're in the business alongside you. So to explain the technology, this particular soil balance technology, I think I explain it a little bit differently than most of my science guys do. The way that I like to explain it is I like to start with this plant, with the hemp plant. So the hemp plant is so unique because it sequesters a huge amount of carbon, 4 to 5 times more than most other plants do. So as this hemp plant sequesters all this carbon, what it does is it takes that carbon and it turns it into sugars and carbohydrates that actually come out of its roots. So these sugars and carbohydrates are called root exudates. So it's almost like a little liquid that comes out of the pores of the root. So what we did was we found root microorganisms that naturally co-evolved with most plants in nature that just live on the roots, that love to eat these sugars and carbohydrates. I know Marcus and I really like to eat sugar and carbohydrates. So So as these little microbes that we have found eat all these sugars and carbohydrates, essentially what they do is they poop and they pee, right? So the scientific term for that microbe poop is called a secondary metabolite. So if you're starting to visualize what's happening here, the hemp plant is creating, sugars, carbs, in root exudates. The microbes reproduce like crazy on the root by eating all these sugars and carbs, and they create a waste product. Now, the waste product, a secondary metabolite, could be anything. It could be a hormone. It could be an enzyme. It could be an acid. It could be a chemical. In fact, CBD is a secondary metabolite. The saliva in your mouth is a secondary metabolite. So this plant is essentially being signaled to either have health and abundance by the microorganisms that it's colonizing with in that soil. It's so important for this particular plant. And so as that happens, what we have found is it's not what microbes can do on their own, but what they produce in combination that make them effective. So if you get a bunch of different strains together, you're getting a high amount of biodiversity, and then you're producing a combination of these secondary metabolites or microbe poop, right? So all of these materials create like a biofilm on the outside of that root, and they have a bunch of different effects in the rhizosphere. So some of the effects that we're seeing happen, and we've actually included specific strains, is we're creating an enzyme which actually communicates with the plant. Bioenzymatic communication is what it's called, and it communicates with the plant to increase its oil production and its terpene production. So constantly, as our regenerative strains are growing on that root through the duration of the crop cycle, the microbe poop or secondary metabolite that they're creating is signaling that plant to push oil. So it's saying, hey, make more oil, make more oil. It's a signaling that. And so the plant just naturally will start to create more oil or be signaled to do so. So now the second element that we address to actually create that oil is the physical element of it. So the other thing that are microbes, the other secondary metabolites that we're creating are acids. And so they essentially work as a chelating agent in the rhizosphere. So as that root begins to traverse through that soil aggregate, it's going to run into all the different particles and fertilizers and things that you guys have put in there. So a lot of times you take a particle and you can put it right on the root, and the root's not going to be able to fully absorb it. Why? Because it's not bioavailable. And so what we're doing is we're creating an acid on the outside of the root that essentially, as soon as it touches that particle of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, manganese, your macro micronutrients, as soon as those roots touch those particles, it's almost as if that acid on the outside of the rhizosphere turns that mineral into a juicing machine. So it's like it almost breaks it down into a very fine particle size, which is assimilable to the plant at a very high ratio. So the plant is not only being signaled to create more oil, but it's also being signaled or has the capacity to absorb more of the materials that it's going to need to put into oil production and have its health. Now, the other thing is water, is bricks, is sugar. So what is the actual oil content, right? What is oil? What is the CBD trichome made out of? What is that? Well, as we all know, it's largely based on the sugar content. So the carbohydrates within that plant, the biology within that plant is taking a lot of those sugars. Not everything. I mean, but it's a percentage of the actual material that is that oil. The plant's sugars are actually turned into the oils, the CBD, the CBDA, CBDG. So I should probably just pause for a quick stop here before I go into a whole nother layer, if anybody has any questions.
Peter, I did get one question here that wants to know if this is an amendment.
Correct. So as far as the actual product itself, it's a powdered formulation. It has 62 strains of microorganisms. One application contains 6.1 quadrillion CFUs. That is quadrillion. And so it gives, as far as the material structure, we like it as a powder because it gives the grower the control over how much he's putting in. We've found a lot of discrepancies through testing with liquid products because they can actually, what we found in doing this for 20 years is that in a liquid product, what ends up happening, even with a compost tea, the microbes can actually eat the carbon sources, and you get different secondary metabolites in there, and you get different balances of microbes. So it can be inconsistent, and so will your results. So what's nice about the powder is we're taking out all the organic material, which has no pathogenic microorganisms, and you have a pure solution to create a microbial tea. And so you simply add this product to water. You mix it up for about 5-10 minutes because it's based in sugar, dextrose and yucca, which actually acts act as a surfactant for better penetration. You put that into whatever amount of water, and then you can put it in through the lines. You can put it in through the pivot. You can broadcast it with a tractor, so it's really easy to apply. You just add it to your water in a watering. Yeah. So yeah, that's the base structure of the product. So go ahead.
And the question I get, Peter, when I talk to people is they ask, excuse me, how small is it? And I know that you've given me those numbers before. I mean, it won't clog up drip lines. It won't clog up, anything like that, right?
No,
I mean, it's
it'd be impossible for it to do that. Yeah, because it's just too small a material. So it actually declogs drip lines, believe it or not.
Takes the scale out.
No, yeah, it does. Yeah. It has before, because usually if you're putting in like humics substances into your lines, what can happen is you can have that organic material in there, and you can start getting like molds and mildews in there, or all kinds of different things. And so what we've found is our product can kind of inhibit the growth and spread of a lot of those bad guys in there. Yeah. So as far as the size of the product, it's actually 100 grams per the acre. So 100 grams weighs less than a quarter of a pound. So it's very inexpensive to ship. So you can really treat 1 acre with about a pound of microbes. But that should kind of tell you something. So you're putting down a pound of microbes, but it's pure microbes, really. I mean, well, about 4% pure microbes of that pound. So
and treatment on that, I mean, you usually do 2 of them, don't you? 2 or 3 treatments of the Soil Balance Pro. But I guess in this case, at the end of the year, 1 or 2. Would that be right?
Yeah. Since we've got about 30, 45 days to harvest, this is actually the perfect time to put the product on. I mean, we like to get it on early because of the health benefits to the roots, and we can talk a little bit about that. But yeah, right at flowering is when you really want to put this on, because that's when trichome formation is at its pinnacle. And I mean, what we're seeing is people are putting this down, and within a 2-week period, it's easily testable to see 15, even 20% more oil over the non-treated, very, very, very quickly. So.
And honestly, that's what I love about this. I really got hooked on it when I first met you and started talking to you about this, and just realizing how much you knew about this industry. And for me, they're big words, what you're talking about, but it makes sense. And especially makes sense when you're able to put something in and 2 weeks later and test it and actually see the results on it.
Yeah, that's something that we've worked really hard to get it to this point, Marcus. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of products you put out, and people are like, well, let's test it for the whole season, see how it goes, because they've been disenchanted with microbial products that don't work. The industry's in a big growth stage, just like the cannabis and the hemp industry is. But we've been around for about 20 years, so we're vendors for Dole. We're on 350 of the top golf courses in the United States. So we've developed this particular product to work as an organic natural amendment that works better and faster than a chemical. About 20 years ago, we saw the organic industry beginning and struggling, and these guys were trying to go into new land, and they were trying to amend their soils and not use methyl bromide and fumigation and systemic fungicides. And we saw these guys struggling, and we helped them. We were a big part, in my opinion, my people and my team. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I started when I was 19, and I was out on the fields helping organic guys become USDA certified organic back then, and the movement back then. And now it's flowing. And so yeah, it's definitely something that we had to refine to compete against NPK, to compete against a lot of these things, to have a product that would show efficacy better than anything out there, because that's what our growers wanted to see. They're like, hey, we've been using these products, conventional agriculture, for so long. You're telling me it's going to take me 2 months to see your product work? when we were doing like just, things like mycorrhizae and Bacillus subtilis and trichoderma and things that have been around since the 70s, and that wasn't cutting it. These guys were disenchanted, and it became snake oil back then. And so it was hard for us. So we had to really get our shit together and refine something that was going to work fast. And so now with this product, what you can do is you can put it in, and in a week, week to 2 weeks, you should see your calcium go up. If you do a leaf tissue analysis, you could see your phosphorus go up. You'll see your fine root hairs within 2 weeks really start to develop like you haven't seen them before. If your roots are having a hard time, you'll see them turn white again because they'll be healthy. They'll have been colonized by the right guys that are giving them the right secondary metabolites. And so what we're doing is we're essentially mimicking what organic growers are already doing. So a lot of these guys, the best organic growers that we know, they amend their soils for 3 to 4 years, with high quality humus compost, aerobically turned with clay aggregates so that it's insoluble, and it costs maybe $50 to buy a ton of this, $60 to buy a ton of this type of compost, but you put in 20 ton per the acre for the first 3 years, and you're going to have cross protection. You're going to have so many microbes in there, beneficial guys that are sustained in the clay aggregates, the hydrophilic aggregates within the soil that the compost has, that you're going to have biology even in a really bad soil that's never been farmed before. But again, these guys are doing these types of inputs for 2 to 3 years to get that soil to a point of competency where they don't have to use fumigation, and they don't have health issues, and the plants don't just die. So that's what they're doing to address the soil-borne pathogens and plant parasitic nematodes. So they're putting in, all these amendments, all these organic amendments, very, very expensive stuff. Some of it's cheap. A lot of it should be cheap, like the fulvic and stuff. You should only be paying like, $5-10 an acre for a good fulvic acid. But anyways, to get that soil to a point of competency, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of money. What we've done is we've kind of taken that process and taken a 3-year process and circumvented it to about 30 days. So that way you're getting all of the microbes in 20 tons of compost right on your root. But instead of using cross protection, what we're doing is we're using rhizobacteria. And so essentially, to kind of give you some spatial thinking on this, and maybe we should just talk about, let's talk about the physics first. So compost is made up of microorganisms that are from animal intestines and crop residue. Good quality compost. I've been making compost for years. Those are the main materials. Sometimes you'll put clay in there, different manures. But for the most part, those are the microbe strains that you're going to be implementing into your soil. Now, a lot of those are not rhizobacteria. A lot of the strains in compost live on the leaf, not on the root, or they live in an animal's intestines. So you're putting them in there at high volume, but are they? And so the benefit is there's so many of those organisms in there that they're taking the space, they're taking the room. And so diseases like Pythium, which causes root rot, or botrytis, fusarium, rhizoctonia, those are some big heavy hitters that'll make your crop go hot. You'll get THC stress by those guys. And then you're not going to get your micronutrient absorption for your terpenes because there's always plant parasitic nematodes. I don't know a farm, even the best organic farms we've ever tested, they've got tons of meloidogyne and sting and lance nematodes, and those guys will devour those juicy fine root hairs that are absorbing your macronutrients. So to have enough beneficials in the soil, you can't have enough. You've got to overpopulate the bad guys. So what the concept in cross protection is, and this is where soil health comes in and white roots, is that if you inoculate your soil with enough good guys that are doing, the givers of the soil, versus the takers, who are the pathogens, who are essentially just trying to survive. You have microorganisms that are living in balance with the roots, and they're actually giving to the plant what it needs. And so basic microbiology will tell you that if you have an overabundance of one particular beneficial strain, whatever that strain is, it's going to take the space. And so when something like Pythium gets its proper environment or its proper temperature, and it decides to colonize or start to grow within that soil aggregate, it essentially is not necessarily outcompeted, but there's just no room for it to grow. Like, it can't move into the space that it wants because there's too many good guys surrounding it. So it stays at what's called a subclinical level. And what that means is that it's not dying. We're not killing it. We're not a pesticide. We don't need EPA registration. We're essentially just overpopulating it with the good guys. We're putting in so many into this soil within that growing region that the hard guy, the pathogens that are going to hurt the crop have a hard time gaining traction or competency within the soil. So that's another element of why so many microbes is important. And one of the things you can't expect with soil balance is that your roots will be white and healthy for the duration of the crop cycle. It's very important to understand, though, that our product is not meant to be used as a pesticide, or we make no claims of pesticidal efficacy. We're just essentially mimicking what organic growers are already doing by adding a lot of microbes in there. So that's what we've done. So if you look at the numbers of how many microbes we're actually putting into the soil, 6.1 quadrillion per application. So just to relatively allow that to have an impact, everybody here, I'm sure, is familiar with compost tea. You get a really high quality compost, and you brew it and you put the material in there and you get the humic acid, and you get a lot of the microorganisms that are in the compost. So a good quality compost tea, if you're a master compost tea maker, is going to have about 500 million microorganisms per gallon, right? So that's, a lot of the microbial products out there right now, you will see that they will have, 200 million microbes in a gallon, or they'll have 500 million microbes in a gallon, because that's what a good compost tea has. And so it would take 12.2 million gallons of a 500 million colony forming unit gallon of microbe tea to equal one application of soil balance. So that's big numbers. So 12.2 million gallons of compost tea is about maybe 4 or 5 inches of water per acre. I mean, I don't know if you can put that down in a year. So as far as the sheer volume of microorganisms going into the soil, we're looking for space. We're trying to get the space to help circumvent the 3-year detoxification process and get that soil healthy. And then once you have that many microorganisms colonizing the soil and regenerating in the soil, what they do is they start to compost your soil. So with using soil balance year over year, the soil will become better. And that's a beautiful part of what we've worked on, because we believe in true sustainability, which is reducing input costs, reducing, working with nature and having a truly sustainable system, which is going to be cost effective for future generations and our valued hemp farmers, because our hemp farmers are the future of our country and of our earth. They are. I mean, what you guys are doing is you guys are the heroes of our earth right now by protecting these soils and growing this plant. And that's the change that we need for our environment. So it's another area where we're very grateful to be a part of your craft. So by colonizing that soil with this amount of microbes, what also ends up happening is the microorganisms will act as decomposers. And so most of our strains, not the mycorrhizal strains, but most of them are called saprophytes. And what a saprophyte is it's a type of microorganism that attaches to organic matter and it decomposes it. So kind of like that same acid thing I was talking about on the root, that's the same thing that will happen on a calcium particle. And so as we grow into the soil, so our main house is the root, right? That's where we're living. That's where we initially colonize and build our base camp. And after that, then our guys start to stretch out into the soil. And they do that for a very particular reason. The reason they do that is because they're looking to build humus. They're decomposers. So their whole philosophy is we've got to make this environment better for the plants yet to come, because that plant gives us life. So if we take care of that plant, then our future generations will be okay. You know? And so they grow out into the soil, they find carbon, maybe a dead root, and they decompose it and they turn it into humus to help with the, to help with the water holding capacity. So they decompose it almost like a compost microbes do, actually better than compost microbes, because it's a whole different process. We're enzymatically breaking it down versus heat, which is a faster process. So we're seeing the bulk density of the soils change, the friability, the porosity of the soil change within a 3 to 4 month period. You'll be able to get better water penetration. You'll be able to, when you're in drought conditions, instead of, it turning into a rock hard, material, you'll actually have the ability to stick a shovel in there. So the physics of the soil actually changes. And that's because of a multiple of reasons, but a lot of it is because of the new respiration of the organisms in the soil. They're pulling in oxygen. They're creating humus particles, not only in the rhizosphere, but throughout the soil. And they're communicating with each other. And so that's one of the beautiful things we've seen with our microbes. So this is a pretty far out topic. It's not far out, but it's real. The roots. So as the microbes grow into the soil and they decompose a piece of calcium, they'll actually communicate with the hemp plant and say, "Hey, there's a bunch of calcium over here. Grow into this neck of the woods." You always wonder how does the root know where to grow? Well, if you have the right biology. I mean, the plant's searching on its own. But if it has bioenzymatic communication within a biologically active system, it's actually going to communicate from afar with the microorganisms who will, in a chain of enzymes, tell that plant where the calcium is.
It amazes me every time I hear you talk about this. It's funny because we put out a video, and one of the videos was we talked about how it was magic, and it is. It seems like magic, but it's really just nature. You figured out what it was that was missing, the things that we had killed, the things that weren't in the soil anymore, and you've put them into this, and it does everything. It just doesn't just, feed your plant, give you more CBD. It takes care of the soil. It, holds off the predators to the roots, or, I don't know what you call them, but it's incredible. Every time I hear you talk about it, it's amazing what it does. And to top it off, something that not only heals their ground, not only, makes their soil a better soil, but actually makes them money by using it. I mean, this is a positive, product to where you're using it. You have a return. It's a return. You see actual money that you can make off using this product. You can figure out an ROI, and that's, even though all of the stuff it does, which is amazing, but even for hemp farmers and every farmer, there's a bottom line. And you know that because you've worked in the industry with all the other different farmers. They look at it and they're like, well, can I justify this? And when I ran across this and realized what it does and how justifiable it is, I just can't see people not using it. So anyway, I'll stop talking, but I'm your biggest fan.
No, thanks, Marcus. Yeah, no, it's a unique time for all of us right now. And, as far as an ROI, yeah, this is, so what we did last year was we hired the head of environmental science and technology in North Carolina, State University, a gentleman named Dr. Robert Bruck. He's a professor emeritus now. He was with North Carolina State as one of their top advisors, or I'm sorry, top professors for I think a little over 20 years, and he's from Cornell, so he's a pedigree within the world of academia. He's been on multiple environmental boards, and he's a high class guy. And anyways, he did these tests for us. So he went out to a farm in North Carolina, and he applied soil balance. We did two application on this particular one for the year. The biomass was significant, as I'm sure you can see. I mean, we didn't really quantify that because we really wanted to quantify the oil production. And so with this particular crop that we did, we tested more than 50 plants, or I'm sorry, we treated more than 50 plants, but we tested 50 and 50 non-treated plants of the acreage that we did. And these were the results. The CBD and the CBDA were much higher, and these were done by independent laboratories. So we actually had Dr. Bruck, so there wasn't any degradation of the analysis or the scientific method or any in-house discrepancies. We had him send all of the tests that we completed in 2017 to independent laboratories. So this particular test was done by Botanical Services in Colorado, and you'll note a 77% increase in the oil content. We also did another trial in 2017 with a Colorado farmer. And this is a gentleman that had been growing for the last 5 years, the same strain. These results that he got he said he had never seen that before. Also, his THC was at 0. And he said, he thought his machines were broken because he says this strain has never been at 0 THC. So he went and literally bought another testing machine, and it came in at 0. So he had no stress THC levels, and he saw a significant increase. And now this was at week 4 of flowering, but it ended up going up after that. But he never got us a white paper after this. He said he's going to. So this is the only white paper that we had. So if we have it in writing, then we publicly disclose it. But he still hasn't gotten us the other thing. But he went up to about 60%. Increase in his CBD and CBDA, and he did 3 applications this grower. We also, and this is one of the things we're most proud about, is our terpene profiles, and this is where we really feel the.
Hey, Peter, can I catch you before we move on to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to pop back over to here because I just want to throw out some plain numbers to really look at this. Mm-hmm. 2 treatments on an acre. Which is basically $598, right? That would be a 2 treatment per acre. If you're putting down 2,000 plants, that's about 30 cents a plant. And if you go back, I mean, obviously this was a low CBD strain right here, which, I mean, in a sense, 42%, almost doubled, but I mean, not really. But if you go back to here and you look at this, so if you gained 5% of CBD in a single plant, and say the going rate, and really low is at $3 per point, that's $15 per plant, and 2,000 plants, you're talking about an extra $10,000 an acre for what
Right.
costs $598. That's amazing. So anyway, I'll stop. I didn't mean to interrupt you on that. We can go on to next.
No, yeah. I mean,
the return is just
yeah.
to see something that does this for this little amount it's incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's why we're selling a lot of it now.
Yeah.
So the clients that used it, it's a no-brainer. So they're like, why would I spend $1,000 on 20 tons of compost?
Yeah.
When I can spend $600 on your product, and I'm going to get more microbes that live on the root, not like, compost. So a lot of guys are not using compost tea, and the budget that they were using to spend that, they're using this. And compost really doesn't do anything for oil production. So you could put 100 tons of compost in, and it's not going to do anything. The strains won't give you more oil. So that's where the benefit of this product really comes in. Is, you know, you're getting white roots, you're getting crop health because you're amending the biology of your soil. You're addressing that issue. A lot of growers don't address it. They're preoccupied with so many other things. You know, God bless them. They got a lot going on right now. It's a new season. You know, absolutely. But yeah. So you look at the cost. I mean, for $600 and you're guaranteed. So what we've started to almost guarantee you, I don't know if we're going to come out with this as a company yet, but one of the things that we're seeing is our guys are getting a 1,500 to 2,000%, 1,500 to 2,000% ROI when they use our product. Yep. I mean, I don't know any investment in the world where you can get a 1,500%.
Not that it's not a long bet, I'll tell you that.
And we're already in the industry together. So the amount of oil increase has been dramatic. And then, you know, there's a lot of really good growers out there that are hitting 18, 20% that we're working with now that are buying our product just for the terpenes. Yep. But the guys that, you know, a lot of the growers that haven't properly addressed the biology and they have genetics that should be at, you know, 15, 20%, but they're hitting 8, 9%. And you know, it's because they didn't address the soil. They didn't address the biology in the soil. So they could go hot. That's what we saw in 2017 with the Dr. Brook trials. And that's probably something we should talk about. So what we saw in North Carolina is that they didn't do anything for the biology. They just put the plants in the ground. They were worried about drip tape and seeds and plants and clones. And you know, and so they just went into the ground direct, and a lot of the plants went hot. A lot of the plants started going hot, whereas very few of ours did. I think it was, I don't know the exact number. I don't want to misquote, but it was a pretty low percentage of ours that even got close to, and they were right at the point, you know, 0.3 if they did even get that high, but most of ours were well under. So, you know, not putting that compost in is a scary business, especially, you know, with the regulations of going hot. You know, you hit that 0.3, you're in big trouble. And so, you know, taking out that stress of the plant is what the value of compost does. Even if you don't use our product, use compost, because it's going to, you know, and you don't want to use a green waste compost. A green waste compost could compact the problem, believe it or not. If you're looking at the actual soil physics, using a green waste compost, it's going to be, you know, anaerobically produced. So you're going to have powdery downy mildew in some of those materials. You don't want to bring it into your nice soil. So you really need to address the soil with aerobically produced compost or soil balance. And that's what we're trying to do, is make it easy. You know? Well,
and it does. I mean, you know, all of this always comes down to labor. There's a lot of labor involved in the hemp industry, and you know, to bring in a compost, to get your field right, to till it all in, then to get it set up. I mean, those are all labor hours. Those are all, you know, either equipment or it just costs a lot of money. And to be able to take something, turn it into a liquid, you know, feed it under your field, and then cure your soil at the same time without having to go through, you know, hauling in truckloads of compost and tilling it all in. I mean, this makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great, you know, synopsis of it. So yeah, it's just working with nature. You know, that's really how we developed the product. We essentially just found out what the hemp plant naturally co-evolved with in nature, what it liked, the ones that live and regenerate on the root. We isolated all those strains and we just reproduced them. That's why it's organic. There's no weird stuff in it. It's the familiar microbial partners that this plant needs to survive in a non-indigenous environment. You know, we're taking this plant, we're putting it wherever the hell we want, but we're not giving it its digestive system. You know, we have our own immunity and our own digestive system. Well, the plant is going to get it from the air over years, or we can give it the right microbes that it needs, the right strains that it needs for the soil. And so that's what soil balance is. And in balancing the soil, we can achieve sustainability. We can achieve, very, 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 if any, fertilizer use one of these days. By building that soil consistently, you can get your whole operation to a point where, you're off the grid. And that's the goal.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. I want to hear about those terpenes.
Right.
I know I moved you away from it, but that's emerging into this market. It's huge. And I know everybody's selling for CBD right now, but terpenes, it's another secondary market that it's going to be huge in this. And I know what you go ahead and talk about it anyway. What you're trying to
entourage effect is
the
alive
entourage.
and well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, let me do this real quick. I'll show you guys this.
Personally, I've grown for 16 years. It's a next level product. I think anyone's going to see it immediately. They're going to see it in the final product. They're going to see it in the bag. They're going to see it down the line in the extract. So it's it's a no-brainer. Yeah. Especially if you want to be competitive in the industry, you need things to give you the edge. For us, we won the Emerald Cup, came in as like an underdog. Soil Balance, I want to give them props. They were one of the main reasons that we won this. They were a product that will increase your terpenes up to 200 to 300%. We used it and we won terpenes. Yeah. Highest terpenes. It was pretty much, and we weren't expecting it, but we're super pumped. This has really given us a lot of momentum into the new 2018 growing season. We're able to really bring this forward and share it with other growers. Also use it in our program to hopefully go and bring home more awards and get our product, our farm out there.
Something that you think other people will benefit from? Other growers?
Yeah, totally. I think anyone should give it a try, and I think after that they'll be convinced that it's part of the protocol.
All right. Am I back?
You're back. I'm looking for the slide. There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, what we're really excited about. I mean, when I started off the webinar, I thanked these growers that are on the line here for a very particular reason, because it seems like there's a lot of unique and interesting things around the whole terpene conversation. But one of the things that we're finding with the growers like that you're working with, Marcus, a lot of these guys are already hitting very high CBD levels. They're hitting 18, 19, 20%. And you'll still see a 10, 15% increase in that level. There's only so much that the plant can do. And if you're already hitting it, then, this product will take you to that next edge. If you're at 20, maybe we could take you to 22%. We push, and that's what we did for this gentleman. And so, the definitive, so hopefully everybody gets to that place where all hemp growers are hitting 20, 22%. That's the goal, or higher, right? And so one of the things that's going to quantify this industry in the future, and this is my prediction, not only of hemp and cannabis, but of food as well, is quality. And that comes with nutrient density, and that comes in the terpenes. Quality, flavor, taste, smell. It's quantified by the amount and the profile within the terpenes. Now, this gentleman, Ty Israel, he's a friend of ours. He said that when he was at the Emerald Cup, that the judges there that tasted his oil said, honestly, this is the most comprehensive flavor of an oil we have ever tasted. It's hands down the best we've ever tried in any competition. 2 of the judges told him that. And we smoked the competition. He smoked the competition with not only terpene concentration and terpene types. We won another award for highest quality flower. And it was because of the terpenes as well, with some other Las Vegas award. But it basically is an industry right now where more and more commodity is going to be cultivated. There's more, we're talking to growers right now that they're doing 1,000 acres with us right now, and then they're going to do 5,000 acres, 10,000 acres, 15,000 acres next season. So there's going to be a lot of commodity coming onto this market, and it's going to get organized. There's so many things in the work with the processors that we're talking to and everybody. And so what's going to set everyone apart is the quality. So the guys who have the best quality, the highest terpenes, are the guys that are going to actually be able to move that product, because that's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day as the market unfolds. I mean, would you agree with that, Marcus?
100%. 100%. And I put it, on our website, I talk about it a lot too. And quality matters. Just in the basics of the way it is right now, the people that have the highest CBD production, their flower is going to be bought first. And the reason being, it takes the same amount of time to process a 5% flower as it does a 19% flower. Mm-hmm. So, all of those things come into play, and especially as these terpenes come into play and, all the different products that people are using them in, it is going to matter. So there's going to be a higher quality that people are looking for, and the people that have those terpenes or the higher CBDs or CBGs and all those things are going to be the ones that sell their product first and get a better dollar for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a market. That's the way all markets are. And
that's the way all markets are, and it's what's going to go here. So by refining that and focusing on that and working on it now to get the soils biological activity, whether whatever you do, it's just something to address to really improve that quality. And that's what organic cannabis growers in California found out years ago. Like, living soil, man. Like the best buds were coming from the guys who were working with the biology.
Yeah. Yes. You know what else? I'm going to bring this up, even though it's going to take us back 2 slides. Something I just realized is when you were talking about this, you saw the increase here, right? The 77% increase on the CBD CBA, which was what? That's like 8, 9, 6% or something like that, close to. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the biomass, which you didn't equate,
right?
I mean, if you figure that into the equation, because if there's twice as much biomass here that has 4% more or 5% more CBD, you're talking about a way bigger increase than 77%.
We haven't even talked about the extractability of the oil yet, Marcus. When they took it to the processor, they were actually able to extract way more oil than the nut treated.
See, that's
and we're going to be running these farmers are going to be running through crops so fast, hopefully, that they're going to maybe get one press. And so if your extractability percentage, like one of our clients, Peak or Pike Hemp in Colorado, they bought it for their whole operation, and I think it was like over a 20% increase in oil extractability.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, getting to biomass. So I'll take the Pepsi challenge on, and we already have, right? Every single biological product out there we've tested against. As far as biomass goes, there's no biological product on the market that comes close to us in biomass. Like we are way ahead of the game on biomass. We've been refining that for a lot of years. So with that being said, the reason our company is really focused on nutrient density and quality is because that's the future, and that's where we want to spend our resources and time educating people on on what's in their best interest. And so the other thing, just in my years of being in sustainable agriculture as I'm 40 now, but when I was 21, 22, going and talking to, strawberry farmers in San Joaquin Valley, man, these guys, you tell them that you're going to increase their yield and they say, what, you're a better grower than me?
Yeah.
I think it's disrespectful to tell a grower that you're going to do it better than them. I do. I don't do that. So I'm not going to say I'm going to do it better than you. I want to be a part of the team. I want to work hard for you, sir. And that's the attitude that I've taken. And this is something that without the correct biology, they really can't do without me right now. But they can hit their yields. I can show them how to do mineral balancing and all the right things that they need to to circumvent, so many of the problems that they face organically and naturally working with nature. So many beautiful things out there that they're already doing. That's why I have such a deep respect for a lot of these hemp growers that I've been running into. I mean, the deepest of respect. So beautiful industry.
It is, and this is going to make it even better. The biggest thing I have when I talk to people about this is and I talked to you about this before, is, it really works. And if you really were convinced it worked, I mean, if you can add 20%, that's like adding 20% more acres. So if you had 100 acres, it'd be like having 120 acres, without having to do another 20 acres, without having to process another 20. It's all the same processing. It's a great product. It really is.
Yeah, well, and the results are speaking for themselves. So we have about, I think we're probably close to 3,000 clients now. So we started in 2017, and we've got a lot of hemp growers, a lot of recreational growers that just, I mean, we get tons of orders every day from repeat customers and people that just love it. We've got about 300, testimonials on our website. We just got a new video that hopefully we can send to everybody on this webinar today from one of our growers in Oregon. I mean, we're just getting so many great stories of guys that are using it, that are like, this is the real deal. This product has industry staying power. It's you hear a lot of talk about a lot of stuff, but really addressing that biology and putting that life back into the soil,
Peter?
It's giving back life. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question here. They would like to know if the results vary with different soil types.
Absolutely they do. Yeah, soil is heterogeneous, and so for instance, what we found in agriculture over the years is, let's say that a certain plant type necessitates a high amount of calcium. Well, it doesn't matter how much of my biology that you put in that soil, I'm never going to be able to, I don't want to say never, because you can sequester a lot of stuff from the air over years, but I'm not going to have the exact amount of calcium that particular plant needs for biomass. It's one of the reasons why it's dangerous from a microbial company to make claims on biomass, because you can put all the biology you want there, and unless you're balancing those micronutrients correctly from the get-go, your results are going to vary. I mean, this is already a challenging industry in and of itself. Growing is a poker game in some respects. So but our product has been 100% effective every single time at increasing the oil. So despite the soil condition, our product will 100% of the time, every time, increase the oil production. So we haven't met a hydroponic or soil system yet that we haven't seen the oil increase, because that's all biological. Again, we're not growing tomatoes. We're not going for, we're growing oil. And so the biology is what creates that. It's a secondary metabolite. It's created by a microorganism. And so if we're going after biomass, the thing for these guys to really get a higher biomass increase, like they've never had before, is you have to not balance the soil with the conventional, soil test that you can get at your university. You have to look for bioavailable nutrients, especially when you're working in a highly biologically active system. So if you're using compost or soil balance, you're going to have a lot of microbes in there. So you want to put the nutrients in at the levels that are going to be bioavailable. So you got to test for bioavailable nutrient content. And doing that, you can change the pH of your soil, which could, it's pretty out there right now. You can really circumvent your weed issues if you have a different pH, just by balancing your micronutrients and putting the right biology in there that make them available. So, but thanks for the question. So we don't guarantee that you're going to see biomass increases, but we will guarantee what we're saying right now. So that's why we want to build a good relationship. We want to earn the business. So, these results that we're showing you guys with regards to the CBD results, this is proven. This is real. And this is what we're seeing with hundreds of clients right now. So there's no will this stuff work? This stuff will work, and it will increase your oil. We guarantee it. By how much? Could be 5%, could be 10%, could be 50%. Depends on, how good your soil is and what methodologies. Again, heterogeneous soil. So, biomass is a crapshoot. We could increase the biomass by 20%, 30%. We've increased it by 80% before. But yeah, so soil has a lot to do with it. So with regards to the terpenes, one thing I just wanted to finish off on was the actual types. So one of the things that is important with terpenes is, each strain of cannabis has usually 5 to 6 major types of terpenes, right? You'll see like a very high level of myrcene, you'll see a very high level of linalool, or one of those, being a major in that particular phenotype. And that's the same with the hemp plant. That's why it has its certain smell. And so and then you have macro or micro doses of all the other terpenes. So maybe there's 30 different types. Oh, hold on really quick. I'm sorry. So maybe you'll see 30 different types of terpenes, but you only have 5 majors that stand out in that particular phenotype. Well, with soil balance, what we're seeing is we're getting 12 majors. So we're seeing instead of 5 or 6, we're seeing 10 or 12 different types. And they're all high. They're all at balanced levels. So not only does the amount of terpenes goes up, but the amount of those terpenes. So not only the types, but the amounts. So it's a much more broader spectrum effect for the end user, right? Which what we're hearing from our cultivators, their customers are really, really reaping the benefits from that comprehensive efficacy. And I say that, with everybody, understanding what we're talking about here. So the benefit to the end client is phenomenal. And, and just as far as it goes with recreational, the guys that have been growing Maui Wowie for 20 years, they're coming back to us saying, man, I didn't even know my plant could do this. This is a whole new plant. It tastes different. It kind of smells different. It's better. Lasts longer. I have more of a great body sensation. So, the comprehensiveness, giving that plant the ability to really do what it's genetically predisposed to do, which is create oil, and protect itself and keep itself safe, by increasing its immunity. Yeah. So,
I know that entourage is huge. And I'm sure people on here have looked at COAs, and the COAs are the ones that show the different terpenes that pop on there. And you're right, there's usually 4 or 5 of them, but there's 20 of them across the chart that you barely see anything on. And I've seen the ones that it's amazing. It pops up. Who knows what it'll turn into and what it actually does, because this is so new. Exactly. But I'm sure that those terpenes that pop up that we're not seeing now, that we'll see when we use this, are going to have a huge effect on how it helps people. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what they're predicting. They're saying that the future, medicine. I mean, a lot of people are saying that is found within those terps. So terps are a big thing right now for all sorts of industries, and being able to take a hemp crop, we're looking at some of these farmers that are going into native soils, and the terpenes come out at 0.1, 0.2% total. And when you put our product in there, just by putting our product in there, we'll get you over 1% usually. I mean, we're not guaranteeing that, but that's what we're seeing. A lot of our guys who are at 0.2, 0.3, 0.4%, After they use soil balance, they're at 1.2, 1.5, 2%. The guys that are at 2% are hitting 2.8, 2.9. The guys that are at 3% are hitting 3.8, 3.9. The guys that are at 4 are hitting 4.2. They're breaking records. So that's what this stuff does. It helps give you that edge, that next growth edge is what this is.
Yep.
So just real quick on nutrient density, because I think we've already kind of covered this, but yeah. So in that test, so these samples were taken in North Carolina, and they were processed by North Carolina Department of Agriculture. So Dr. Brook took them to the state to have these treated and non-treated leaves tested, and you'll see, a 64% increase in phosphorus is significant. As well as the calcium and magnesium, potassium, nitrogen. So those are all the tools that the plant needs to really have the strength to process all that water into sugar, through photosynthesis to create more oil. So you got to have those up to have a healthy plant, and that's what soil balance does. So let's see how it works. I think we kind of covered this in the interim.
Yep, I think we did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we have
one last question. We have a question about it. Does the product meet OMRI requirements?
Yes, it does. Yeah, we are OMRI approved for use in organic food production, and yeah. And we're working on Clean Green, which is another one. But for us, all that really matters is OMRI. I mean, we're creating food grade product here with good growers. So yeah, we are OMRI approved.
Wow, that's great. That is great.
Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I mean, this kind of picture says it all. Like, I mean, I guess I could tell you, Marcus, a little bit about us, about our company. I mean, we're kind of a boutique manufacturer right now, but we've got some really big clients that have seen the strength of our product. I think everybody's small in the cannabis industry right now, so we're just getting started. I mean, we have different industrial divisions that we're working on, but right now we're getting started in the cannabis industry with everybody else, and in the hemp industry mainly. I mean, that's our focus. We're not so much focused on recreational cannabis as much as we are as soil health and doing large scale industrial agriculture, because that's our forte. I mean, that's our background. Dr. Brook and I, and our whole staff of microbiologists, this is what we've been living and breathing for 20 years. I mean, this is us. And so working with farmers and knowing irrigation systems and all the nuances and, growing with nature is it's in our blood. It's who we are. And we're, just grateful to have the opportunity to chat with these growers of yours today, Marcus. So thank you for that.
You bet. And it shows through in everything you do, and just your customer service and how much you care about the farmer, and actually having a product that helps them and helps the whole world, helps the planet, helps the ground. It's wonderful. It really is. And I mean, knowing you has been, finally meeting you and talking to you, it's been a pleasure. That's for sure. You really are, you're the real deal. you really are the real deal. So,
yeah. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for that energy, man. Thank you.
I really, really want to thank you guys, Marcus and Peter, for presenting and really going in depth into, the science and the understanding, as well as understanding the market and just how everything's connected. And I do want to let everyone know that's on here that there are a lot of really great videos that can be found at the website. We're going to make sure to get that that brand new Oregon testimonial up, and we'll get that out on the website, social media, all over, so that people can take a look at that. And if your question didn't get answered, just make sure to put it in the chat, and I will make sure that gets off to you, Peter, to get them the correct information. And again, if anybody has any questions or wants to follow up and wants to find out more about working with this product, the information there is all ready for everybody. And really, Peter, Marcus, I really want to thank you guys for taking the time to present this information today.
Thank you, Beth.
Oh, thank you for having us. We're deeply grateful. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
And growers, we know, just as Peter said, exactly how hard you work and the hours you put in. So we really, really want to thank you for taking the time to spend with us and learn. So we are here to answer your questions and support you with whatever your needs are to keep growing hemp and keep healing the planet. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day and a great evening.